From Alaphilippe winning on day one and taking the maillot jaune to Ben O'Connor winning yesterday, we've had a dramatic, emotional, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons, week of racing. So trying to pick apart the race and decide on a few key points of the race is very difficult. So let's see whatever I come up with. Just to let everyone know that I still seem to be having technical issues, so I'm not going to be reviewing stage 8 and 9 of the tour in a separate video. I'm not sure what's going on and I need to get someone in to resolve it. The first point I'm going to make is that pretty much everyone that has won a stage so far has had some sort of story to galvanize them and really remind them of why it's so great to win. Alaphilippe and his wife obviously just had a baby. Van der Poel was riding in the spirit of Raymond Poulador. Tim Merlier and Ben O'Connor have had contract issues in the past where they haven't had a team and then they suddenly had one. Alpecin picked up, well, then Corendon Circus picked up Tim Merlier in 2019. Azure Desert picked up Ben O'Connor last winter. Cav, obviously, we know that story. He's gone from Epstein Barr to complete lack of confidence in the sprints to being the fastest rider in the Tour de France. Dylan Turns recently lost his grandfather or father, I can't quite remember which one. And Matej Mohoric, we saw him crash so dramatically at the Giro, and he's also completed the Grand Slam set. So I think that's my first. It's been for stage wins, it's been an emotional one. So in that way, it's been fantastic to watch the first week of the tour. I think my second point is going to be the dominance of Tadej Pogacar. I mentioned in a previous video that it is very reminiscent of a certain Texan. In terms of how he raced it, and I, remain that to be true. Lance Armstrong always his big plan was to dominate that first week of the race, whether it be in team time trials, individual time trials, crosswinds, and then pad out the time on the first mountain stage or the first weekend in the mountains. And that's precisely what Pogacar's done. Apart from a small cock up on stage 7 where they missed the Van der Poel group, UAE have actually been pretty strong, which is fantastic to see. The likes of Costa, even Micah yesterday, and McNulty when he's not looking the wrong way and crashing. It's great to see them step up around their leader. Pogacar, as I've said before, only a miracle will stop him from winning the 2021 Tour de France. The third big talking point I'm going to make about this year's tour is the crashes and the rider safety. In terms of crashes, we have had a fair number of them but I don't think it's much different to that of the first week. In any other Grand Tour, Tour de France, sorry. We all remember the massacre of Metz in 2012, which took down 90 odd percent of the peloton. We all remember 2015, where Cancellara went down and 90% of the peloton went down as well, and the race was even neutralized. So I don't think it's been different in terms of the amount of people that's gone down. I think it's just different. I think it's just spread out over the number of stages. I do. So in terms of rider safety, as we've discussed already, clearly something needs to be addressed. Um, whether it's a flexible 3K rule, whether it's just neutralizing GC gaps at 3, 5, 10K to go, which I don't agree with. I think a much more flexible system in place should be easily doable. They have race radio for a reason. Why can't they use it to tell them where the 3K rule will be? And also, I don't think the stage 3 in particular was overly that dangerous. I think clearly a road narrowing is going to cause issues, especially at it is clearly going to cause issues. But I think the main thing is DSs want their riders to be at the front because the Tour is the biggest race of the year for their sponsors, and most sponsors think only about the Tour, and that's why they're there. So they want everyone at the front. So that in turn puts pressure on the DS to get the riders to the front, and then the riders to get to the front. That means you've got a line of 5, 6 teams, and um, then going around a tight bend, something like that is a recipe for disaster. You could argue, which I disagree with, that maybe was it worth putting a bend like that in at that point, but ultimately that's racing. The riders should have taken responsibility a little bit more and ridden the course to the conditions they were given. If they knew something was unsafe, then you ride it differently. Um, so another note on rider safety is the absolute shame on Movistar. Um, with the incident with the fan, obviously we know Mark Soler broke both elbows, carried on to the finish, but as it turns out, he also had concussion. He felt dizzy and like he couldn't stand up properly. But Movistar and the team doctors and ASO and not WADA, sorry, the UCI commissaire let him back on the bike. If they're going to talk about rider safety, they have to talk about it all, and that includes whether riders should get back on the bike or not. Despite the yellow jersey battle seemingly being over, we do still have a lot to look forward to in the second week of the race. We've got the double ascent of Mont Ventoux. Yes, it is a shame they're not finishing at the top, but that's what the organisers have decided. And they also have a couple of aggressive looking days next weekend in the Pyrenees and the lower levels of the Pyrenees as well. In terms of the race itself, the battle for the podium is going to be great fun to watch. O'Connor's got a good advantage over the rest of the podium guys, so it will just be a case of whether he can recover today on the rest day and on the sprint day to Valence before Ventoux. So if he can, I think he's got a very good bet for the podium. Uran Mas, and Vindigo are riding solidly, although I think Vindigo is struggling a little bit. He dug deep though yesterday. Enric Mas is probably looking, for me, the best of the guys below, Pogacar, and so I'd like to see him and Movistar be more aggressive this week. Carapaz seems to be has lost that zip we saw in Tour de Suisse. Um, so I think Ineos need to rethink their plan. Maybe not be that team that takes the front. Maybe they look to be a bit more aggressive with their racing, as they said they would. But that being said, Teo and Richie Port need to up their game. They had shockers, certainly yesterday. But then with the weather being atrocious and the cold, you can sort of put that down to a mitigating factor. Uh, the battle for the green jersey is going to be great fun to watch. You've got Will Cav make the time limit versus Matthews and Colbrelli going for intermediate sprint points, and look out for them to rip the race to pieces tomorrow to Valence as well. The other battle for the King of the Mountains jersey is hotting up and shaping up well. We've got three riders targeting it by the looks of things, and three riders targeting it in different ways. So, like yesterday, you had Poles going out early on the CZ, but then dropping back. We had Quintana coming up through the group, and Woods over the weekend got a load of points as well. So that is going to be a great battle, and that will probably go down to either the Tourmalet or Luzardi Dentison, depending on how the GC riders race the Pyrenees. So yeah, I think those are my four main talking points. Obviously, I could have split them into a gazillion, but I hope you've enjoyed the first week. I hope you're looking forward to the second week as much as I am. Expect the unexpected at this year's tour, um, maybe apart from the yellow jersey. But I hope to see you throughout the week on here reviewing the rest of the race.